Grand Prix was really quite a golden opportunity for Mercedes. Both McLarens had their lap times deleted in qualifying. That meant Norris could only start 10th. Piastri was 6th, and they've been really the biggest challengers for podiums in recent Grand Prix, certainly on a track layout like this. So suddenly, you've got the Mercedes duo up in the top 3, second and third, Russell ahead of Hamilton, with a bit of a buffer until the nearest threat for the podium's coming through a little bit further back. Hamilton is on the soft tyres, Russell starts on the medium. The tyres were difficult because everyone had to make 3 stops, so you had to use something other than a medium for a stint. And with Hamilton going for the soft tyre to start, Russell, we know, finished on the soft as well. Mercedes had to use that at some point, and they gave Hamilton the chance to at least do the George Russell move from the start of the sprint, put on the soft tyres, find the grip, maybe take an early lead, and that's exactly what Lewis tries to do. But in the end, it's a mistake from him, and it's the really, really poor one that ends up taking out his teammate as well. That's the cardinal sin in Formula One. So let's look at it through with the top 3, really. Verstappen covers off Russell. The Mercedes immediately side by side. Russell tucked in. Hamilton with the better grip off the line on the softs gets alongside him. Then we come into the first corner, and as they hit the brakes, it's fairly staggered formation, really. Verstappen's done everything right from the inside here, covered the line. He's ahead of Russell. He can kind of dictate at this point. Russell's sandwiched between his teammate on the outside, Verstappen on the inside, but he's doing it okay. Hamilton has this chance, though, on the soft tyres, and he knows that he wants to take advantage, because this is the time. We heard him on the formation lap saying he's going to be a sitting duck in the first stint, but at least he had the advantage into the first corner. So he gives it a go around the outside. He's later on the brakes, but simply turns in too aggressively on his teammate, who is still sandwiched with Verstappen on his inside. So Russell hasn't done anything wrong here. He's held his line. He had Max there in the way into the corner. Max is still there, but it is just Lewis that's cramping in and closing that gap to George. A little bit of contact there, and here you can clearly see that there is plenty of space for Hamilton just to take a slightly wider line here. Not ideal in Qatar because it was dusty offline, and that's probably what Lewis is trying to avoid, trying to get as close as he can to the racing line to get a bit more grip on the first corner. But he does just squeeze in a little bit too much, and there's contact, and both Mercedes go spinning. And for Hamilton, it's the end of the Grand Prix. Lewis put his hands up after the race. Initially thought it was his teammate that wiped him out, but afterwards apologised to George Russell, so trying to keep team harmony. But it was, I think, an interesting dynamic, really, because you can see on board with Hamilton how aggressive he is with his teammate right from the word go. And bear in mind, this comes just a couple of weeks after Japan, where they were already at fisticuffs with a couple of bits of wheel-to-wheel action. Hamilton kind of forcing Russell wide at Spoon Curve. Russell then not wanting to play the team role or wanting a bit of payback later on. So there's already a little bit of needle, and then we get this start from Hamilton on the soft tyres with an advantage compared to his teammate at this point. Takes the slipstream from Verstappen, and then at this point, he's really trying to pen Russell in. So Russell cannot go around Verstappen at this moment, and so Hamilton's trying to keep his car as close to Verstappen as possible. So Russell actually just has to blend out of the throttle and give Lewis the outside line. It's understandable. Bit of racing from Hamilton. It's quite smart, but it does come at a bit of a price as well. So as he's keeping here, not going wide onto the racing line at this stage, he's just trying to keep Russell penned in behind the champion. And as we come through here, Russell's now trying to just jink out because he sees that maybe there's a chance on a medium tyre compared to Verstappen on a medium. Maybe this is his chance to lead the race outright in similar conditions. So Russell now is trying to move out, and that does put a squeeze on Hamilton here, and they are so close to touching already before they even get to turn 1. That is a really, really minuscule gap at high speed, but Hamilton probably could see this coming, and he's already steering to the left, opens it up. He probably knows that could come when he's put the squeeze on Russell into the first corner, but it's certainly a sign of intent from Lewis. And then we get to the first corner and he chucks it in. The attack in the first corner was solid. It was a great idea, but he just didn't give enough space to George, and round he goes. But as I said, at least he's tried to smooth the team atmosphere by apologising immediately. And I think when he saw the replay, it was fairly clear, because on board with George, and you can see that there's not a lot more he could do. This is where Hamilton now is just trying to pen him in a little bit, but Russell still goes for that gap round the outside. Now he's side by side with Verstappen. Here comes Hamilton, and there's nothing more at this point that Russell can do. He's on the brakes. He's turning in. There's barely any gap to the Red Bull. The Mercedes is on the outside. There is a fractional oversteer on the colder medium tyres that just forces him maybe an inch wider, but it would not have saved that big whack of contact from Lewis. And Hamilton out the race, and Russell onto a recovery drive that he actually made a very, very good fist off and showed that Mercedes had some really good pace in the race. If they'd stayed second and third, even first and third at the start, they would have had a great chance at beating McLaren and banking themselves some big points. As it was, barely put any inroads into Ferrari in their battle for second. And for Hamilton, his first DNF of the year, he's been very consistent. He's had a superb season so far. But it was a bit like his first DNF of last year as well, and in fact his only classified retirement of last year, as it is this year for him in Qatar. This was the move that he put on Fernando Alonso in Spa. This is why he retired last year from the Belgian Grand Prix, and it's a similar sort of thing, only with no Max Verstappen there. This is Hamilton on the outside, Alonso in the middle of the road, Lewis coming from a little bit further back, but again turns in and just puts too much of a squeeze on Fernando. There's the contact there, and again, Lewis knew this one afterwards. There he goes, launching up, because they actually very, very similar contact with Fernando, expecting the car on his inside just to disappear, and a bit like this one with Alonso. He probably should have known that Verstappen was there at the start. I'm sure he would have done, because he was running right with him into the first corner. So unlike other 3-into-1 situations, I think Hamilton was in control of all the facts before turning in. So he took it on the chin. He took it on the chin in Spa last year, but both of them quite costly. And for Mercedes, a glorious result on Friday, getting second and third, having McLaren so far down, but suddenly the race completely turned on its head.
Come on! What the hell? Guys, come on! 2 races in a row.
Obviously gutting, and massive apology to everyone back at the factory. It was just, I think it's just probably a racing incident, but I take full responsibility for it. I don't think George really had anywhere to go, so.